Sori.
This is Sparky. We are about to do a band we've never heard before. A song we've never heard before. The name of the band is Eluveitie or Eluveitie. I'm not sure. Correct me phonetically in the comment section. It's really messed up because I looked for it like 2 seconds ago, but I lost it. Eluveitie. I don't know. So they're folk metal, which I've never heard of folk metal before.
Yeah, it said Swiss folk metal, I think.
Yeah, so, you know, one of those things where I felt like I thought I had a good handle on metal, thought I had a good handle on the genres of metal, and quickly came to realize that I don't know a damn thing, apparently. So anyway, I'm excited to hear this one. Everybody's been telling us to listen to this band, to listen to this song, so you guys better not steer us wrong or Sparky will be angry at you. Look at that.
That might come that direction. You know what? Sometimes I think people want to shock us, and then other times I think that they're getting a feel for what we like and what we don't like, and they're like, I think they're going to like this one. And then sometimes I think people want us to like what they like. I
think people realize by now that, you know, we're not easily offended people.
No.
You know, so I don't think this is going to be like a
I don't think so either.
Song.
I think it's going to be one I'm going to like. I like the name of it, like the band name. Eluveitie.
You don't even know the name.
I don't know, but I like the.
You don't even know how to pronounce it.
I'll tell you this: when I wrote it on the board, I liked the look of it.
Yeah, it sounds very elegant, but I want to see what they've got. So let's go.
Here we are.
Sounds like we're in the forest.
Yeah, it sounds like
Clean.
I like that a lot.
Clean.
That's we gotta invite them to play around the fire at the village. I like the folk stuff in it.
Yeah, it felt like if there was a metal band at the Shire.
Yeah.
In Tolkien's universe, it would be this would be the band.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I loved what her voice sounded like when she said cauldron.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely felt folky, felt like folky.
I felt like we
Celtic.
needed a table and a couple of beers and they do the
yeah.
it's on the table.
Don't get mad at us if we're being mad ignorant right now. We don't know that culture yet.
No, we
so
don't.
This is all we know.
But that's a positive thing. I'm not trying to be insulting.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Just want to make sure people don't think we're trying to.
Right.
So this. I could see why everybody. I feel like this is a good introduction to this band.
Yeah.
Because this song is very, very accessible. So, I'd like to hear more from. This is one of those bands I want to hear more from. It was Abla Fiscaris. I wanted to hear more of, and then now this one too. I liked the juxtaposition of the guys' vocals and then her vocals, which is Abla Fiscaris kind of did the same thing. Only I felt like Abla Fiscaris took it to the next level because they were both doing it at the same time.
Yeah.
And they were, really challenging to the listener to kind of decipher. Whereas this one was like they were pairing off of each other, which was great too. They did it really, really good. Sonically, they sounded really, really, really good.
Yeah, I really liked it. I liked the way the music was, except there was parts of it where I understand they were going really fast and it takes an extreme amount of talent to go super fast. But I don't like, remember how I said before, like those conveyor belt things that are at the airport where you're walking on them and you almost feel like I'm going too fast right now.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like that, like I was being pushed along with the music, and I don't like that feeling. But I don't know what the lyrics are talking about. We haven't, dived into those yet. So maybe once we do, it's going to make sense why there was that speed.
I don't know. I just think that they're a metal band. They wanted to play fast.
Oh.
Yeah.
A little bit too fast for me. Not too heavy. You understand what I mean by too fast?
Well, yeah, it was just fast. The tempo was just on.
Yeah, and I'm trying to journey with you.
On 11.
I'm running to catch up.
Well, yeah, but if you have 5 minutes in a song, there's only so much you can do. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, Abla Fiscaris, like, there's already the expectation that you're going to have an 11-minute listen. Mm-hmm. Whereas this band, you got 5 minutes. You got to say a lot in a very short period of time. Although I don't really, I think they pretty much stay to the same theme here. So the name of the song is Rebirth. This is interesting because I think there's some references here to stuff that I'm vaguely familiar with, but not very familiar with. So
well, this will be interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's the. Turn your phone off, please. It's interesting because there's a couple things. So, like, for example, so in mythology, I'm not very, very up on mythology and Celtic mythology, but it's basically there's this cauldron that you go in and you suffer in it, but then you come out on the other end and all that. So
what's the purpose of that suffering? Do you know? A rebirth?
Well, yeah, it's rebirth.
Oh.
It's this concept that you have to go through, your own kind of, dying down and in this place. How do you even know even
that information?
Well, because anytime you look at, I'm just really big into mythology. So, like, anytime you look at a mythology, you're just, this is European stuff. And I'm not as conversant with this, obviously, as I'm
as Greek with mythology.
Zeus and all that stuff that you had to learn in school. But I don't know much here. This is kind of Celtic, Welsh stuff. If I'm getting the references right, and I might be completely off here.
Okay.
But basically, you go into this cauldron. I forgot the name of the cauldron, but you go into this cauldron.
This is Mighty Cauldron on Nidus. Is that the cauldron's name?
Nidus, I don't know, because Nidus basically means like a nest. It's like the place of your origin.
Oh, okay.
So, but it says, I surrender all to thee. So, maybe that's the...
What's that next word that starts with a P?
Panacean? A panacea is basically a cure-all.
Oh, okay.
Panacea cures everything. So, panacea nothingness when nothing is left. So you go into this cauldron, it strips everything from you, and that's the cure-all. Is everything that you were before gets stripped from you, and then you get reborn, right? So it's sort of like the Buddhist understanding of nirvana. You're trying to, because in Buddhism, the origin of suffering is desire. So if you can rid yourself of all desire, then you've reached the highest state of consciousness, which is nirvana. So
I think it's also what a lot of people think, like when somebody says, oh, did you get saved? Or like in Christian theology. I think that that's the same idea, where people think that it's like this a rebirth in the sense that everything that you were is completely gone, you're starting something completely new, and it's not really like that. You still have to deal with your old stuff. You're not perfect. Stuff like that. Like there's and then because people have that mindset, then they say they're full of hypocrites because what I'm saying? They're preaching something, but they're not actually living it. Well, the idea with Christian theology, we understand that we still have that same nature.
Yeah, people go, what type of Christians are you? You swear.
Right.
I'm like, I'm a Christian in process. It's interesting because in Christian theology, the solution is not to completely not be yourself anymore. It's actually to be your truest self.
Right.
Like, so the idea is that sin or whatever's wrong with you is actually what takes you away from being your real self.
Right.
So to be reborn in Christian theology ultimately is to be who you were originally meant to be before sin came and screwed everything up. So it's not stripping everything away. It's stripping a specific part of you away, actually, so that you could be your authentic self. But I do think that there's some carryover, right, of this concept of going through a trial or going through a difficulty and then coming out as a reborn person or being a different person.
Oh, yeah, because every situation changes us, especially the painful ones.
Yeah.
Sometimes what you see when you come out on the other side, though, isn't always better.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if you let the bitterness or the pain that you went through, if you let it just stay there and not allow it to be like something to step on, a stepping stone to get to something higher, then it becomes something that actually brings you.
But I think the musicianship and the girls singing kind of gave you the sense of positivity that it was.
Yeah.
That's a positive rebirth. There's the concept of this cauldron, and then the nidus is either a person or the beginning or the origin where you were. And then there was one other thing that I saw right here.
Oh, I loved this part.
On Tumnos' gate.
I beheld the mirror in the lake. I recognize I did not, nor did I comprehend. Just the way that he said it was poetic.
Yeah.
I want to go back up to the top after because there was another part I really liked.
Tumnos' gate
what is that?
So that's the underworld, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really?
So you have, Sheol in Hebrew thought is the underworld, and then you have Hades in Greek thought, which is, Hades is divided up between Tartarus and the Elysian Fields.
Yep.
That right there, though, that was the gateway to the underworld.
Okay.
So I beheld the mirror in the lake, recognized I did not, nor did I comprehend.
So he had completely changed?
Yeah, he was a completely different person now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start. So those are the only things that I recognize from this thing. So
okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
These dreadful shades dancing in my dwindling sight and crying out these hollow words, a straying soul in my scorching flesh, dying down amid this fucking blaze. Just the part right there, these dreadful shades dancing in my dwindling sight. I just like the way the sound of that was. What is happening? Is it his self that's dying away? That the old self that he's trying to rid himself of is dying in that pot, crying out these hollow words.
Well, the shades, I think the shades are crying out the hollow words. These dreadful shades who are dancing in his dwindling sight and crying out these hollow words.
Oh, yeah, I bet you're right. A straying soul in my scorching flesh. So his soul is leaving him when this is happening?
Well, yeah, I think that's the idea.
Does the soul come back?
Like yourself. Well, I mean, you get reborn. The whole thing is rebirth, right? So it's the soul is leaving. You get thrown in this cauldron, your soul leaves you, and then you come back a new person.
Well, in Christian thought, your soul is your personality. So, I mean, his person, right? So at the end, when he doesn't recognize himself, that would mean he didn't have his soul. But in here, they're saying he does have his soul does come back to him.
No, I don't think it's that technical. I think it's at the end when he says he doesn't recognize what he sees in the mirror. I think he's talking about he's such a new person that he can't really recognize himself.
So he does that right before he goes into the underworld?
Does what?
He
What
goes
does he
into
do?
this pot, right? Or is it
Yeah.
the pot that makes him
He
come
goes
to the
into
gate?
he goes into this cauldron and then he gets reborn and then boom, after he's reborn, he's right at the gate of I'm
Did
the Joseph
he-
Solana. Go
Did
ahead.
he know? I think I'm still a bit confused. Did he know when he went in the pot that he was going to be reborn to go right to the gates?
Well, yeah, I
or did he
think-
think he was going to continue living on his life in a new way?
No, I think when you go into the cauldron, you know it's happening.
Is that
next.
death?
It's kind of like a purgatorial sense. I don't know. I'm not sure. So I'm not speculating. All I know is that there's this concept that you go into this cauldron and then you come out as a new person, right?
Yeah. It sounds like death to me.
Well, I mean, it's the gate of the underworld, right? So who knows? It might be. Because at the end of the song, he's at the gate of the underworld. Mm-hmm. So, O bright son of the night, I lift my eyes up to thee.
I love the word "thee."
I know.
I always have.
It's that carryover from that Elizabethan English that you have for your
Yeah.
King James Bible.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Oh, ye amber golden light, let the dark sweep over me. So this is a sort of really good juxtaposition between light and darkness, right? The sun of the night, S-U-N, of the light, I lift my eyes to thee, O ye amber golden light, let the dark sweep over me. Mighty cauldron, O Nidus, I surrender all to thee. See, Panacea, nothing. So this is like entering into that cauldron of suffering.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because there's no resistance toward the suffering here. It's almost like a welcome.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, he
type of
says,
thing.
let the dark sweep over me.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like you wanted it.
Well, I mean, I guess if it depends on how much you want the rebirth, I guess. My swooning world infested by strident cries in a worship of the void. Yikes.
Wow.
All vanishing in a dull and distant noise. So this is one of those situations where like everything in your world goes upside down and haywire and crazy. And you, because you're losing everything.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, what you're actually worshiping. Like everything is getting called into question now. Because it says worshiping the void. Mm-hmm. My swooning world infested by strident cry in a worship of the void, all vanishing in a dull and distant noise. So, like everything is getting turned upside down. So I just think the song, even your understanding of God and all that, because it says in a worship of the void, so you're worshiping emptiness. There was nothing there. Go ahead.
I kind of wonder if it's as he's letting the darkness like come over him and he's like kind of falling into this change that the void like the void that comes like that kind of like empty like as everything's kind of like opening up and taking him over. I think that there's almost like this love for it, and maybe that's what he means. Like there's a
Love
worship
for what?
of the void that's coming, everything that's coming toward him. Like he's worshiping that in the sense of okay, good, it's here, all vanishing in a dull and distant noise. Like everything is becoming distance now. He's coming into the void, but it's not like he's like this void. He's just like it's here, and there's almost like a worship of it.
Well, because it's talking about the panacea and nothingness. Yeah, it could be. It could be that he's embracing the emptiness. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting thought. Most human beings do try their damnedest to avoid emptiness. You know what I mean? Like, unless you have like a philosophical pre-commitment that nothingness is good. Even like in Buddhism, it's not, a lot of people mistake nirvana to be nothingness, like an attaining a sense of nothingness. That's not the goal. The goal in Buddhism is
peace, right?
to have no desires.
Yeah.
So the nothingness you're trying to attain is having no desires, because desire is a source of suffering in Buddhist philosophy.
Right.
So not even Buddhists are trying to attain like absolute nothingness.
Right.
So this here is interesting because if you're right, then he's worshiping, he's trying to worship nothingness to some level. But of course, how can you worship nothingness?
I don't think, well, no, I understand like the deep thought on that. How can you worship nothingness? But I think that I can't even describe it. It's like sometimes when I can't sleep and I take Unisom to help me fall asleep. and like I'm waiting for that feeling of like falling like that, you know what I mean, like as it like kind of just like takes you and then you just like let yourself go into it and you're like, yes, it's here. Like I think it's like that, like so as the nothing was coming, I think that it became like you're like, oh.
Well, yeah, if the theme of the song is about resting, I would be able to rock with you, but it's not. It's about what you're talking
rebirth.
about here is
but that's
rebirth.
the stage before the rebirth. He knows he has to go through that, so embracing the nothingness, because out of it's going to come this rebirth.
I see what you're saying.
I would, if I was him, I'd be like, all right, well, whatever. But and especially if it was painful, didn't it say that it was painful at the beginning?
Well, yeah, well, it says it's painful all throughout.
Wait a minute. Okay,
a strange soul in my scorching flesh, dying down amid this blaze. Yeah.
Yes, but then it goes in a worship of the void. Does it talk about pain after that?
Yeah, he just repeats it again.
As one with pain and with distress, yeah.
Yeah. Sweet surrender and serenity. Will I remember this whom and all will I ever know?
So he's gonna he wonders if he's gonna forget that experience.
Well, I mean, just like with if you're using the rebirth metaphor, right? You don't remember the moment you were actually born.
No.
And you don't remember.
Some people do.
You don't remember the.
That's what they say. Yeah, there's some people that say they remember being born.
They're lying.
How can you say that?
Nobody remembers when they were actually born.
There are people who say they remember it.
I want to meet these people.
Look it up after. They say that they remember it.
If you know somebody who remembers being born, bring them to me. We need to do an interview. But most people don't remember being born in their initial birth. So, so there you are. So just like you don't remember being born the first time, you wouldn't remember being born the second time.
Yeah, and he calls it a womb.
Which is very interesting because I actually think the concept of rebirth in Christian thought, this should be the experience. But the majority of the time, most Christians can tell you the moment that they got saved or whatever nomenclature that you attach to it. But in all honesty, I think, this is probably for the podcast, but I think that this is probably more accurate. I don't think most Christians know the moment they were reborn. I think they remember their first cry, but your first cry and your actual birth are not the same thing. So I don't think it's true that most Christians know when they're reborn, but they're remembering their first cry. Go ahead.
How can you say that?
Because to this guy's point, rebirth is something that, if you're going to use the birth analogy, most people don't remember being actually born. So if you don't remember being born physically, I would say the same thing would apply spiritually. How could you know? Because most Christians, especially in our circles, they track it to the point where they said some prayer. But you and I both know that they were reborn prior to the prayer. That's the reason they said the prayer in the first place. So all I'm saying is,
but maybe that's that's because the church has told them, you say this prayer and then you're saved and you're good. So in their mind they say, okay, then it's got to be the prayer, and they think the prayer is what actually saved them. But if they weren't taught that, and instead they understood that there was a time where God changed your heart and you become different, I think that they would remember. How do I know?
Remember?
But that wasn't my experience. I've always been a Christian.
You haven't always been a Christian.
Yeah. Well, we can argue this all the time, but I always had that.
So then from the womb you were a Christian.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
You remember?
I remember when I was born.
Yeah, you remember. No, I just think the point of this part right here is like the significant moments of our lives, because there's a moment in time when you changed and you went somewhere else, but the specific date and hour nobody really knows. Nobody remembers any of that stuff. I just think that line is very significant, because we come to these moments where we're so different than we were a year ago, 2 years ago, and we mark it because of like a specific event that happened.
Yeah.
Externally, but I think something happened internally that happened before that happened.
Oh, okay, I agree with that.
And I think that part of you is hard to track. It's hard to say when that happened. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably because, like, to your point, I feel like I've always been a Christian. It wasn't something that just kind of happened when I was a teenager or something. So, you know, when you're a kid, you're conscious.
Right.
You just don't really have a whole lot of memory of it and stuff. Like, it's not like if I was in my 30s and I was completely changed. I feel like I would remember that.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I just like subtlety, and I like people who cut very, very, very sharp lines, and I like the will I remember. Or because it seems to me that's like people mistake the moment that catalyzed the change inside with the change itself. And I think those are two separate things.
But the question, though, then at the end, when he says he doesn't recognize himself, doesn't that mean that he remembers?
He remembers who he was before. But the specific moment when he transitioned from old person to new person, he's wondering if he's going to remember that.
Yes, I know, but at the end...
And the fact that he doesn't recognize himself kind of leads to the idea that he doesn't remember.
But he remembers that he was someone else.
Right. You know, one with pain and with distress, sweet surrender and serenity. Will I remember this womb at all? Mm-hmm. Will I ever know?
Okay, will I ever know what changed me? Okay.
Yeah. I think the womb is a specific moment that you transition from being who you were to being who you are now. Mm-hmm. And of course, being the big self-awareness junkie that I am, I think that's an important point, you know, because there's a big difference between moments that pushed you to change versus the actual moment when you actually did. Mm-hmm. And those are, if you can figure that out, you'd figure out a lot of secrets about yourself. If you can figure out the specific moments when you actually changed, when you actually made those life-altering transitions, then you'd be able to know a lot of things about yourself.
Really?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Why?
That's for a podcast.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I'm not even going to tell you. You're going to want to do an after-camera discussion. I'm not going to do it.
How dare you?
Figure it out yourself. All right, what do you rate the song?
Oh, 9.
A 9.
Yeah, I really liked it.
7.5 for me.
What? Why?
I mean, I didn't.
I liked it and it was fun.
Novel Viscaris was definitely different, like something I'd never heard before.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard switches between clean and
yeah, with the folk stuff
vocals.
in there?
Yeah, mega shells.
Yeah, that doesn't...
No, I liked it. It was fun, but it was, I don't know.
What about the girl's voice?
I mean, she had a nice voice, but I've heard, Nightwish. The girl from Nightwish has a better voice than her. So.
Oh, I haven't heard Nightwish.
Yeah, you haven't heard any Nightwish yet. Yeah.
Okay.
7.5 is generous. Generous.
Really?
For sure.
Okay.
Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.